Well, good evening, Giovanni Frascolla. It's exciting to have you join us here virtually in the Twin Cities to taste your amazing wines. As we get started, I'd encourage everyone that joins us to pour themselves a glass of the Perlato del Bosco to enjoy while we start talking. Giovanni, you are the grandson of Rita and Virgilio. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. I'm the third generation. Yeah.
And they founded the winery in 1994, so it's 27 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So you are not quite as old as the winery.
Yeah, I think the adventure of Tua Rita started in 1984 with my grandparents. When my grandfather Virgilio began this adventure in Suvereto, because he wants to return at the life with his family, no? So he started with my grandmother, and after with my dad in this adventure, and with just 1 hectare of vineyards and 9 hectares of olives. In 1985, became a terrible frost in Italy, and destroy all olives. And from this unlucky event, start the Tua Rita adventure with the vintage 2000 of Redigaffi, with the score of Robert Parker 100 points. Tua Rita begin to be the one of the most important estate in Tuscany and Italy. So now from the 1 hectare of Sangiovese, we have 54 hectares of vineyard.
I think it's important to point out that in 2000, well, probably 2002, when Robert Parker gave the 2000 Redigaffi 100 points, a 100-point rating from Robert Parker was very rare. Now there are hundreds and hundreds of wines that have been rated 100 points by him or other writers for the Wine Advocate or Wine Spectator or James Suckling or whoever. But for a wine from 2000, there were still very, very few wines that had at that point received 100 points from Robert Parker. So it was an enormous accolade. It was an enormous accomplishment, especially in such a young winery.
Yeah, I think the 100 points of Robert Parker was really important because my dad tell me every time the moment during the 90 and the beginning of the 20th century, 21st century. We were in a really beautiful moment. The wave of the Italian wine with Sassicaia and other important estates make the old Italian wine shine in the center of the attention of this important wine critic. And the 100 point to our wine, Redigaffi, was the first 100 point rating by Robert Parker to an Italian wines. Only Sassicaia 1986 had this score, but but later, after I remember 6 or 7 years. And for us, it's really important. Unlucky event for Robert Parker, but lucky for us that Robert in 2003 stopped to score. I don't remember the word, to score to rating Italian wine, and he dedicated to France and other part of the world. Right. So Redigaffi is the first Italian wine, and is the only wine with this score. And that's surely important.
When did you find out that he was giving it or I guess when did your parents find out that he was giving it 100 points? Did he tell them in advance, or did it just come out in the magazine?
I don't remember because I was really young. Yeah. I remember my dad that told me, Giovanni, dad and granddad make the most important wine of the world and I was a child, and I'm so excited for these things. I remember this particular.
How old were you when you knew you wanted to be part of the family winery?
Last year. I lived all my life in Tua Rita. I start to go in vineyards with my grandfather since I was a child, and I was always in the tractor with my granddad. Wow. But I think I entered in my work part since 2-3 years ago. Last year I graduated, and in viticulture, enology and viticulture in Pisa University, and now I'm in the other estate in Maremma. But every week I go back to my Tua Rita.
When you own Tua Rita, when your family is the owners of Tua Rita, how often do you open a bottle of Redigaffi?
How often? The first vintage of Redigaffi is 1994.
No, how many times a year do you drink a bottle of Redigaffi? Your family.
During these days, we open a lot of bottles to compare the other wine of the other estate. During April, May, and June, we open a lot of Redigaffi to compare, but now we open 1 bottle of Redigaffi, 2 bottles for 4 months around. It depends to the if there are some journalists or other. I think for in 2019, that is the vintage that will exit in September. Is the 25th anniversary of Redigaffi, and I think we open all the Redigaffi from 1994.
Have you tasted the 2000?
Yeah. So, but I was too young to understand the importance of that wine. But unfortunately, we have 25 bottles, I think, of 2000.
Wow. Well, I wouldn't open. It would. Maybe your parents' 50th anniversary, or you might open a bottle.
Yeah, I have a reserve of 1997 for me because it's my year. Yeah. I have some Magnum and 3 liters, but in that years we have a really small production of Redigaffi and the other label. So.
Well, that's for your wedding. That's for your wedding dinner. The 97, right?
Yeah.
Did you have frost this year? A lot of wineries in France and Italy had terrible frost damage.
Yeah. In Italy and France, there are some part of the center of Italy that had a big frost this year. The coast of Tuscany is always a part that is there is too wind also during the winter, especially during the winter. So the frost is difficult. It's really difficult that became a frost with the wind. There are some parts of the coast of Tuscany with this problem, but this winter we use the fire in the vineyards, no, and we pruning really late. And that's so important because the plants after the pruning press the energy, no, and go. So with this method, we are so happy because that don't became the frost.
So you know that today we are tasting the 2017 Perlato del Bosco and the 2014 and 2017 Giusti di Notri. You know that, right? So
yeah, I know.
These are two, by coincidence, these are two vintages that were difficult, right? But
yeah,
I mean, in 2014, a lot of wines were, quote, green, and in 2017 the conditions were like the hottest ever on record. But your family, your winery, in spite of the conditions in 2014 and the condition in 2017, managed to make extraordinary wines in spite of conditions that weren't exactly perfect. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, 2014 was a really really difficult because the vintage we train are so hard. I repeat, the vintage dry and hot are better than vintage with rain ever, because the hot and dry you can make some operation during the green process, no? And you save the plant and you save the harvest, but with rain it's really difficult. In 2014 the lucky event was July, because the summer that starts in Italy and especially in the Tuscan coast in these days. In 2014, the beginning of the summer was in July, with some rain also in July and August. So that was really stress a lot our humor, no? But in 2014, the important things was our soil that is rich of mineral. Mineral is a really mineral soil. So with a lot of rock, and the rain go a lot in the subsoil, but it was important the wind. Another time the wind was really important. Our zone is the most dry and hot zone of the Tuscany, all the Tuscany. So where, for example, rain in Bolgheri and rain in Maremma, but not in Suvereto and Elba Island. So that feature of our microclimate save our vintage. 2017 was the opposite situation. A really hot and dry summer, but with our plant density of plant per hectares, we have the plants really close, no? Really close. With this density, the rootstock go in the subsoil a lot and find the fresh of the water. So that saved us in 2017, and now we that saved us in 2017.
Well, talk about the 2017 Perlato del Bosco.
Perlato del Bosco, Sangiovese is our 100% Sangiovese Perlato del Bosco. In 2017, the Sangiovese was really beautiful because Sangiovese in the hot vintage, especially in our the Tuscan coast, with our mineral soil, have a lot of extracts. We worked a lot with the extraction process in 2017 to extract the soft tannins of this grape, because the dry and hot vintage create a problem that technological maturation and polyphenolical maturation are in contrast, no? So our goal in our wine is to create a wine that in the glass is perfect, and with the equilibrio, no? I searched the word.
What's the word in Italian?
Equilibrio.
Equilibrium. It's equilibrium. Balance.
Balance. Yeah, perfect. Balanced wine. That is our goal. And in 2017 we work a lot in the maturation process with the soft extraction of the grape to extract the tannin, the soft tannin of of the Sangiovese. So that's important. Also, we work with oak. Perlato del Bosco, age 1 year in barrel of 30 hectoliter, and a little part in barrique of second and third passage for 1 year. So that is important to refine the tannin of Sangiovese. Is a Sangiovese completely different to Brunello di Montalcino, to Morellino di Scansano, and Chianti, because it's really soft in the mouth than Chianti and Brunello.
It's fantastic. I mean, it's gotten great press for a wine at this price point. It gets, it's gotten 93, 94 point ratings from everyone, which I think is about right. It's 4 years old, but it's pretty youthful. I think it could use another bottle or year or two in the bottle to really show its best. Those soft tannins are there, which they just, as you said, add balance to the wine. It's lush and kind of hedonistic. It's sexy. It's sexy. Delicious. Delicious wine.
Thank you so much.
It's just a delicious wine. It's what you want. I mean, it's not a 25-year wine. It's not a 40-year wine. It's just really, really delicious. And, I just opened it and poured it. If I'd opened it an hour ago, it would have, and decanted it, it would be even better. But, it's 10 o'clock in the morning here. I might have it with dinner tonight. I don't really want to decant it at 10 o'clock in the morning to have it with dinner at 8 o'clock tonight. Is your grandfather still alive?
No.
Oh. So
my grandfather passed away in 2010.
So whom have you learned more from about making wine? The University of Pisa, your grandfather, or your father?
To make wine, I start to work here in the other state in 2016, when my father decided to buy also this other estate.
The other estate is Argentiera.
So
Giovanni. The
Poggio
other estate is
Poggio Argentiera.
Giovanni, is the other estate Argentiera?
Poggio Argentiera.
Yeah. Oh, I know those. And your family owns Poggio Argentiera now?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Not in Bolgheri, in Maremma, the other one. The other.
Oh, okay.
Probably you heard Tenuta Argentiera, right. That is in Bolgheri.
Correct. Yeah, that would be a major acquisition.
So in 2016, I started to work here during the harvest, and I improved a lot the style of wine, no? But every time that I want, I went into Tua Rita to taste some bottles with my father, with my Luca da Toma, that is our winemaker consultant, and our winemaker, that is Marco Lamastra. So I drink a lot of barrels of Redigaffi from 2016.
So
You hear me?
you didn't really answer my question. Have you learned more? Did you learn more at the University of Pisa or more riding the tractor with your grandfather?
Running in the tractor with my grandfather.
Yeah, I bet. Are there things? Are there
Yeah.
things your father has wanted to do that your grandfather wouldn't let him do?
Come? I don't understand.
When your grandfather was still alive, did your father ever want to make changes that your grandfather was opposed to, against?
No, I don't know if I understand the question. No, sorry for my English, but it's not the best.
No, your English, your English is
I
fantastic.
no. My grandfather and my father have the opposite character, but fortunately also the opposite work in the state, because my father is the merchant, and my grandfather was the vineyard man. So I think that the philosophy of Tua Rita started with my grandfather vision of the estate, of the vineyard, of the soil, and the terroir in general. My father have completely another work, but he had he make a really good work for the market. He opened during the beginning of the open on 70 markets in the world. So that's an important result.
Have you ever tasted Chateau Petrus?
Yeah, 2015, last year.
Wow. Last week?
Yeah, last year.
Last year. So
2015.
I say regularly that there are 6 great Merlots in the world.
Which one?
Massetto, Redigaffi, Tua Rita Redigaffi, Petrus, Le Pin, both from Pomerol and Bordeaux, Leonetti Cellars Merlot in Washington State, and Duckhorn Three Palms Merlot in Napa. Do you think
Wow.
Chateau Petrus you can basically buy a case of Redigaffi for what one bottle of Chateau Petrus costs, right?
Yeah.
And you can
Yeah.
buy 2.5 bottles of Redigaffi for what but one bottle of Massetto costs. Have you tasted Massetto?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Have you ever tasted Leonetti Cellars Merlot from Washington State in the United States?
I taste Petrus, Masseto, and no, the other state that you name, no.
Well, anyway, I think your wine is one of the 6 best wines that are 100% Merlot in the world, based on my experience tasting it, quite a few vintages and tasting a lot of vintages of those wines. Did you think that 2015 Chateau Petrus was a better wine than your wine?
It's a completely different wine, and this is a really hard question, no? I think is an extraordinary wine with completely different style, but that's normal because Bordeaux is Bordeaux and Tuscan coast is the Tuscan coast. Is completely different to compare. I love Bordeaux and I love the wines of Bordeaux, and every year I spend a lot of my money in Bordeaux's bottle because I love that style. I think that Petrus is the perfect Merlot of Bordeaux, but is not the best Merlot for the Italian to compare. Petrus and Redigaffi are completely different. No, if you compare Redigaffi with Masseto, so okay, we can compare, but not Petrus and not Redigaffi. Petrus, Petrus 2015 was for me a perfect wine, perfect and elegant wine. With but if you drink it after 15 years, that was perfect, like Redigaffi. That is interesting.
Well, they're the same grapes, but everything else is different. You know, the soil in Pomerol is clay and loam, and the soil in Maremma is, you know, it's called the Collini Metallifere, right? It's because of all the metallic elements in the soil there, right? Where you are, where your winery is, where your vineyards are, is the tremendous minerality in the soil that comes through in the wine. So the grape is the same, but everything else is different.
Surely the important things is the terroir. The big difference between us and Bordeaux is the climate. Yes, it's the soil, but the microclimate is completely different.
I wonder how many 23-year-old men in the world have tasted Chateau Petrus.
How?
The number of men in the world your age who've tasted Chateau Petrus has to be very small, unless their name is unless their last name is Mwex.
Really?
I can't imagine there are very many. Well, the number of people in the world that have tasted Chateau Petrus at any age is pretty small because it costs so much money. So tell us, let's talk about the 2014 Giusti di Notri.
Giusti di Notri is
speaking of Bordeaux.
Our Bordeaux blend. Yes, 2014. I think that is the bottle of Giusti di Notri that where go in bottle was a perfect wine, really explosive wine, and with soft tannins. There are some green notes about the vintage, but completely integrated with the wine, completely inside the style of wine. So it's a wine that I love, and I drink a lot during these years because I love that vintage. The hard vintage for me. In the hard vintage, you understand which is the winery that work really well. No, And 2014 for me, for Giusti di Notri is wonderful.
We had one of these conversations with Daniel Ravier, who is the winemaker at Domaine Tempier in Provence, who's obviously, you know, that's a very, very important winery in the world. And he said that in the conversation, he told us that the 2012 Domaine Tempier Bordeaux was his favorite wine in their wine cellar right now. And 2012 in Provence it was a similar vintage to 2014 in Maremma. It was very difficult, but he thought the wine that he enjoys drinking right now the most, well, 6 months ago when I talked to him, was the 2012, just the regular Domaine Tempier Bordeaux. And we had a conversation with Bartholomew Broadbent recently, who, you know, is, you know, an important guy. I mean, he is who he is. And he said that if you really want to understand a winery, if you really want to understand who a winery is, taste their off vintages. And that will really give you an understanding of what their philosophy is, what they're trying to accomplish. If you taste the challenging vintages of their wines, like this 2014 Giusti di Notri, which is honestly, and it's just fabulous. I mean, it's fabulous wine. I think right now in this glass on this morning, in this room, it is absolutely fabulous.
Thank you so much.
It's so sweet. It's so rich and sweet in the mid palate. And then it has this kind of bracing, kind of intense, hair curling acidity and minerality in the finish. It's powerful without being heavy, which is the acidity. There's certainly no lack of ripeness. There isn't. I mean, and it's 7 years old. It's very, very young. Gosh.
Yeah. I find that every time that I drink Giusti di Notri 2014, the powerful of that wine when it exits. The powerful that every year have Redigaffi. In 2014 it have the Giusti di Notri, and that was important. And I think that this aspect is because in the summer arrived too late in 2014, and that is important for Cabernet. That have a long maturation. That's fundamental. The fresh temperature during the last part of maturation. In 2014, we harvest the third week of October. We start with Cabernet, and that's fundamental. That in the last part of maturation of the Cabernet, it must be fresh, and a big gap of temperature between the day and the night. That's important. I saw a lot of Cabernet, especially Cabernet Franc, because I have here in Maremma in the other state. So I look a lot this difference. For example, I think that in 2019 Cabernet was amazing, and not in 2018. For this point, no, Not that in 2018 was a wrong vintage, but for Cabernet, for this aspect, is better 2019.
One thing that's come up in these conversations frequently, one word that's come up frequently is salinity. Do you know the word salinity?
Salinity.
Salinity. So saltiness from the
saltiness.
Yeah, this wine has great salinity.
Surely for the mineral soil.
Yeah, exactly.
And because we are in a part of Tuscany that is called metalliferous yields, so metal. There are a lot of mineral in the soil, and we are so close to the sea. The sea is 5 kilometers to the center of the state. So the saltiness of the wind during the summer make it's an important feature of our microclimate.
Right.
So for this reason, we have this saltiness, this minerality in our wine, and another important things that is our soil are so old, no, they are so old and change a lot in the vineyard. Last week we make some. I searched the word. Sorry. Some excavation. No, 5 excavation, and there are different. Everyone is different, but the distance was really ridiculous because it's 2 meters, but every excavation is different, and that was incredible. Also, the guys that make the excavation, it was so exciting because how is possible, no? Every excavation is different. Incredible.
Was that at Tua Rita or at Poggio, Argentina?
In Tua Rita.
Tua Rita. Really? Wow. So do you need to think of the vineyard as 5 different vineyards instead of 1 and harvest those grapes separately that come from those different parcels where the soil is different?
If this experiment, no, of the excavation is the same in the vineyard, we have every vineyard a vineyard every 5 meters because change completely the soil.
Right.
And that's so beautiful, no? It's the beautiful of our job.
And
but
this is something you've discovered. When did you do this excavation?
Last week.
So this is something you've discovered last week.
Yeah.
That this
in that part of the vineyard that was in front of the vineyard of Sangiovese of Perlato del Bosco. This.
Have you and your father talked about how you might use that information?
Come?
Have you and your father talked about how you might use that information to make better wine?
No, I think that that is really difficult to use this experiment to make to improve our winemaking process, because it's really complicated to make this excavation and to make linear and equal analysis of your vineyard. No, you understand?
Yes.
I think that we must make an excavation every 5 meters, and that's not possible for us. I remember that my grandfather that worked a lot in the tractor during the to plant the vineyard of Redigaffi and Per Sempre Syrah and Cabernet Sauvignon. He found a lot of stone, big rocks in the vineyard, but I don't remember that he talks about this completely this difference, this gap of structure of the soil in the vineyard. So I don't know, probably that is really a part completely different, but maybe in the vineyards of Cabernet Sauvignon is all the same. I don't know, and we don't know.
Well, that complexity in the soil is part of what makes the wine that comes from the grapes grown in that soil complex.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
I mean, that's reality, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you should just leave it alone and be glad for it.
So you taste also Giusti di Notri 2017.
17, yes.
17 is at the same time powerful, no, for the vintage, but elegant, because in summer and dry, summer hot and dry, we work a lot in vineyard during these days. In the green, during the green process. So we use a particular technique. Wait a moment, that I said such a word. So that for in Italian is hutting. So create and hut with the plants. So we cover the grape, and that's important for the sun. The sun mustn't burn the grape.
Because Sangiovese is very delicate. Well, this isn't Sangiovese, but you're protecting it from, because 2017 was such a hot vintage, you protected the grapes from the sun so they didn't burn. They weren't affected so much by the heat. Yes?
Yes. And we, with this method of hutting, we don't the top part of, we don't cut the top part of the plant of so with this method of hotting, we create one moment, sorry. We save the water, because if you cut the green part, the green top part of the plant start to reclaim water. And with this method, we save a lot of water. The plant is green during the maturation process, and that's fundamental. So the other feature of that saved us during the 2017 was the height density. The rootstock in our soil go 2-3 meters in the subsoil, and there find the fresh the water, and that's fundamental.
Well, the two vintages are interesting. The 2014 seems richer, a little more full-bodied. The 2017 is much more tannic. Of course, it's a lot younger.
Yeah.
You know, but the 2014 has so much richness on the palate that that, as you said, the 2017 is very elegant.
Yeah.
It's a refined, elegant wine, which is not easy to accomplish in a really hot vintage. On your website, it says that you use conical barrels for aging the wine. So shaped like a cone.
We use to ferment our most important grape. Sometimes, not every time. Sometimes but the most important part, especially not the most important. The most important part is the vineyard. Always. An important part is the barrels, the oak, the use and the research of the oak. We have 700 barrique in our aging room from 7 different tonneries, all with different tostature of the oak, and that's really important because every year there is a meticulously selection of oak by my father, my winemaker, and Luca da Toma, that is our winemaker consultant. And the oak save you during the hardest vintage.
Is it French oak or Slovenian oak, or where does the oak come from?
All French oak. And every year, my father and my winemaker go in France, in the tonnellerie, to select the oak directly in the forest, and to select the tostature of the barrique. And that's really meticulously work. 2 weeks ago, I go in with my winemaker in a tasting of this barrique, and there is a really strong and meticulously work for the choice of the oak and the tostature. That's important.
So again, you're looking for complexity. Because you have, as you said, 7 different barrels from 7 different tonnellaries, different forests,
Yeah.
different toast. So again, you're just looking for complexity in the finished wine.
Yeah, that's important. That's important because the tostature is important, but I think the real importance is the forest. The forest in the last year, we talked a lot 2 weeks ago with my winemaker. The difference for us, for our palate, is the forest. Also the tostature, but the forest change a lot in a wine, in a barrel.
Well, different oak is different, has different porousness. So it has a, totally different, even if it's all French oak and it's all oak, even if it's all toasted the same, it has a different effect on the wine, the finished wine, because the porousness of the oak is different, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so you're looking for this variety of barrels to create complexity in the finished wine.
Yeah, surely it depends. Yes, the complexity of our wine are a mix of things and feature, surely, no? But is a feature, but is a part of our work meticulously. But I think that our goal every harvest is to make a really good work in vineyard that make the complexity of the wine. Also the oak, also the cellar and the surely, but if you don't have a perfect grape at the beginning of the process, you mustn't have a really good bottle. So the importance of the vineyard and the importance of the harvest is in the center of our work. That's my opinion and that's my philosophy.
When you make decisions like when to harvest, what kind of oak to use, how long to let maceration go, those kind of decisions, whether or not to hut, is your goal, what is your goal? To make a wine that you think is perfect? I mean, I know the answer to this question, but I'm asking it anyway. Are you trying to make a wine that you and your father, your winemaker and your wine consultant think is perfect? Or are you trying to make a wine that wine critics will think is perfect?
I think that the wine is a wine can be perfect for me, but not for you, and that's the beautiful things of our work. No, for me, Redigaffi is the one of is perfect wine. Okay, but for you is the Giusti di Notri. I think that our goal every year is to make a good job in vineyard and to make a beautiful product for us and for our fun. But our goal, we know that make the perfect wine is impossible, because is subjective, these things.
Well, I've been lucky. I've tasted a lot of wines because of wealthy, generous friends that are regarded as the greatest wines ever made. I've tasted 47 Cheval Blanc quite a few times. I tasted a 1923 Romanée-Conti 15 years ago. Tasted 71 Romanée-Conti, 62 La Romanée. I mean, I could go on. 85 Sassicaia. Legendary wines from Napa. I don't think perfection actually exists. I mean, you can say this is a 100-point wine, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. I think it means that it's an excellent reflection of the vineyard and the vintage. But there can always be something better.
Yeah. Is the same, no? For me, I tell you a story, no, about a wine dinner in Zurich, in Switzerland, with a master of wine. I was with my girlfriend, and this master of wine opened 2 bottles of Bordeaux. The first one 100 points, and the second one 91 points. No. One moment. Allora, raffreddore. I was cold, no? I was cold, so I don't. I can't smell the wine, but I can taste, no? Well, all the table, the master of wine, the other winemaker, they tell, wow, 100 point is really it's a wrong wine. I like a lot. We like a lot the second one, that is 191 point. Yes, at the beginning is real, because the 90 wine is fresh wine, good wine, good smelling of the wine, but the first one have a perfect mouth, really soft tannins, elegance, persistence. So that's important. How if you have the nose and the mouth different, it can change all in a tasting.
Well, if you have a cold and you can't smell, you really can't taste much, right? It's going to be all about mouthfeel.
I can smell, and the smelling is important in a tasting, but in that moment I can. And my girlfriend that is approaching to the wine told me, yeah, but the second wine is better than the 100 score. No, because the first one is perfect in mouth. The other one wasn't.
Right. Wow, that's really interesting. That is really interesting. Several years ago, I had a close friend, very close friend, who passed away 2 weeks ago, Jim Clendenin, who owned a winery in Santa Barbara called Oval Climat. And Jim was a great winemaker, and a great guy and a chef, and just the greatest guy. I'm gonna miss him a lot. But about 15 years ago, I was the sommelier at a dinner where we poured 3 vintages of his 1980 Chardonnays and 3 vintages of his 1980 Pinot Noirs, along with 3 vintages of Domaine Lafon, Meursault Perrier, and Domaine Lafon, Saint-Denis-la-Gravière. And, you know, Dominique Lafon makes some of the greatest Chardonnay and Pinot Noir in the world. Enormously acclaimed winemaker, deservedly so. Jim's wines that we tasted alongside these amazing white red Burgundies probably sold for $3 or $4 a bottle when they were released. And by far the best white wine of the night was this 1980 Chardonnay that Jim made. And by far the best red wine of the night was this 1980 Pinot Noir that Jim made. The Chardonnay that was the best wine of the night got 51 points from Wine Spectator when it was released. It's the lowest rating they've ever given a wine in their history. And it was at 20 years old, was absolutely a magnificent wine. So, you know, there you go. It's so much more complicated than points, and you have to let the wine mature, and you might have a cold. You might have a cold. You know, that's interesting. If I had a cold and tasted these 2 vintages of Giusti di Notri, my opinion of them would probably be totally different, because the 2017 is more intense on the palate. But I have to tell you that the 2014 Giusti di Notri, I just tasted it again. It is an absolutely, absolutely glorious wine.
Thank you so much.
From a difficult vintage. It is an extraordinary accomplishment to make a wine that special in a vintage like 2014. And you and your winemaker and your father and your consultant are really to be congratulated for this wine. It is absolutely, you know, I'm very, very lucky to have this. But now I got to figure out what I'm going to have for dinner tonight that's worthy of that bottle of wine.
Yeah. For tonight, for the dinner, I have Chianti Classico.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much,
Giovanni. This has been absolutely fantastic, as I knew it would be. I have to say, you're definitely the most knowledgeable 23-year-old person I've ever talked to about wine. So this has been just a fantastic time talking to you about your wonderful wines, as I knew it would be, because I love your wines so much. And tasting this all 3 of these wines it's a privilege. It's a privilege.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. On June 3rd, when you can get the vaccine, on June 3rd, when you can get the vaccine, get it. Okay?
Yes, sure. It's a pleasure. Pleasure for me to talk about my estate. So
we want you to be healthy. We want you to keep making great wine. Okay?
Thank you. Yes, sure.
Thank you so much, Giovanni.
Thank you so much.
Grazie mille.
Grazie a te. Ciao, ciao. Grazie.
Yeah.